Horrifying. The most powerful man in Chicago kneels before a skeletal janitor, tears streaming down the face that once ordered an entire house burned to ashes along with someone else's family. Emily, I killed your father. I torched your entire life. And now, I've discovered the 4-year-old girl sleeping in my house is my own flesh and blood. The emaciated woman, starved to the point where her ribs jut sharply beneath her worn uniform, stares straight into the cold blue eyes of her greatest enemy and whispers, "If you truly regret it, then why did you let me and my child slowly die in the cold all these years?" That question twists, like a blade, straight into the heart of the man who once believed himself untouchable. And from that very moment, a horrifying tragedy begins to transform into the most insane, dangerous, and irresistible love Chicago has ever witnessed. Do you dare to hear the rest of the story, where even the most powerful man must kneel and beg forgiveness from the woman he once completely destroyed? Before we dive into this chilling and mysterious story, please remember to subscribe to the channel Alex Truths and like this video. Every subscription, like, and share from you is a huge spiritual gift and an incredibly profound source of motivation for the channel's growth, so we can continue bringing wonderful videos every day to everyone. There would be no greater joy than receiving your love and support through the comments you leave right below this video. Comments sharing your emotions or telling us which province or city you're living and working in while listening to this story. Alright, let's continue together and immerse ourselves in this amazing, captivating story that's filled with deep emotions. It was the last week of October 2025, and the Chicago wind off Lake Michigan cut through my thin coat like shards of ice. I had been walking since 4 in the morning. My bus fare had run out 3 days earlier, and the shelter in Englewood had turned me away because they were full. My name is Emily Harper, 24 years old, and for the past 6 months I had been surviving on whatever scraps I could find or earn as the overnight janitor at Gibson's Steakhouse in the Gold Coast. The job paid minimum wage cash under the table most nights, because the manager knew I had no other options. And it came with one small mercy. The kitchen staff sometimes left half-eaten rolls or cold French fries in the trash bins for me to take home. Home was a single room above a laundromat on the south side. Rent $200 a month, paid in crumpled 20s when I could scrape them together. The rest of the time the landlord let me stay because I scrubbed the hallways for free. I was always hungry. Not the kind of hunger you feel after skipping lunch, the deep gnawing ache that makes your stomach cramp and your vision blur at the edges. My arms were thin as reeds, ribs sharp under skin that never quite warmed up. Sleep came in snatches on a mattress that smelled of mildew and old cigarettes. The nights were long and cold, the wind rattling the single cracked window. I kept my daughter, little Ava, 4 years old, hidden with a kind neighbor lady who watched her for whatever I could give, usually nothing more than gratitude and promises. Ava was the only light left in my world, but I could not risk bringing her anywhere near this life. She deserved better than a mother who counted crumbs. Tonight the restaurant was quiet, except for the low hum of the walk-in cooler and the distant clink of silverware being polished by the day shift before they left. Gibson's was one of those places where the wealthy came to pretend they were important. Dark wood paneling, leather booths, steaks that cost more than my monthly rent for a single plate. I moved like a shadow mop in hand, wiping down the marble floors until they gleamed under the low pendant lights. My uniform was too big, handed down from someone who had quit months ago. The sleeves swallowed my hands and the hem dragged when I walked. I kept my head down, hair pulled into a tight ponytail so no strands fell into my eyes. Invisibility was my armor. Around 8:30, the front doors opened with a rush of cold air. I heard the hostess's voice brighten instantly, the kind of practiced warmth reserved for people who tipped in hundreds. Footsteps followed, heavy, deliberate, the sound of expensive leather soles on tile. I glanced up just long enough to see him. Victor Russo. Even in Chicago, where everyone knew names like his in whispers, seeing him in person was different. Tall, broad-shouldered, fair-skinned, with the kind of sharp features that looked carved from stone. Late 40s, maybe dressed in a charcoal suit that fit like it had been sewn onto him that morning. His hair was dark, streaked with silver at the temples, and his eyes ice blue swept the room with the calm assessment of a man who owned everything he looked at. Behind him came 2 children, a boy, about 8, Tommy with the same serious expression as his father, and a little girl, Sophia, 6, clutching a stuffed rabbit to her chest. They were flanked by 3 men in dark suits, bodyguards, I guessed, earpieces glinting under the lights. The private dining room upstairs had been reserved for the night. A family dinner, the reservation said, but the tension in the air told a different story. I ducked behind the bar cart, heart thudding. Everyone in the city knew the Russo name. Construction unions, shipping legitimate businesses on paper, but the kind of power that made politicians answer calls at midnight. Victor Russo was the head of it all now, after his father passed 2 years ago. Widowed, they said. The wife had died in a car accident 5 years back. He raised the kids alone, or so the rumors went. I had no business knowing any of this, but when you live on the edges of the city, stories drift down like smoke. The group moved upstairs. Voices filtered down, low-clipped. I kept working, pushing the mop in slow circles, ears straining despite myself. A deal had gone wrong, someone said. Unions pushing back on a waterfront project. 20 million lost. The words hung heavy. I knew about unions. My father had been one once before everything fell apart. Before the fire that took our house, before the accusations that never quite stuck in court but ruined him anyway. Before I ran, I finished the main floor and started on the stairwell leading to the mezzanine. That was when I heard it clearly, Victor's voice, deep and gravel rough, cutting through the murmur. This ribeye is garbage, dry-aged, tastes like it came off a truck from Iowa yesterday. My grandfather ran stockyards on the south side, real meat had soul. This is cardboard. A nervous laugh from the manager. Sir, we source from I don't care where you source it. It isn't right. I froze on the landing, mop dripping onto the carpet. The words hit something buried deep. My father had taught me everything about meat before I was 10. How to tell a prime cut from choice by the marbling, how long to age it, how the grass-fed beef from the old family farms tasted different from the feedlot stuff. It was useless knowledge now, except it wasn't. It was the last piece of him I still carried. I should have kept walking, but my feet moved before my brain caught up. I stepped into the doorway of the private room bucket, in one hand voice barely above a whisper. "Excuse me, sir." Every head turned. Victor's eyes locked on me first, sharp assessing. The bodyguards tensed, hands drifting toward jackets. The children looked curious. Sophia tilted her head. I swallowed, throat dry. The ribeye. If it's true dry-aged, it should have a deeper color, almost purple at the edges, and the fat should be creamy, not yellow. The chef probably rushed the aging. 30 days minimum for real flavor. And the sear too hot, too fast. It locks in the juices wrong. Silence. Absolute. I felt heat flood my face. What was I doing? Talking to Victor Russo, like he was a customer complaining at a diner. Victor stared at me for a long beat. Then he leaned back in his chair, studying me the way a man studies something he cannot quite place. "You a butcher?" he asked, voice low. "No, sir." My words came soft, timid. Just, my father was. He knew meat. Another pause. The room felt smaller, air thicker. One of the bodyguards shifted, ready to move me along. Victor lifted a hand, stopping him. "Your father have a name," I hesitated. Frank Harper." The name hung there. I saw the flicker in Victor's eyes, recognition, then something darker. Guilt, remorse. It passed so fast I might have imagined it, but his jaw tightened, a muscle jumping. "Frank Harper," he repeated almost to himself. Then louder. "Get her a plate. Whatever she wants. And let her sit if she wants to eat." The manager blinked. "Sir, now." I shook my head quickly. "No, thank you. I have work." But Victor's gaze held mine unyielding. "Sit, Emily." He knew my name. How? The name tag on my uniform faded, barely legible. Still, the way he said it felt like he had known it longer than tonight. I stood frozen, dizzy. The room spun a little hunger fear, the surreal weight of his attention. My legs felt numb. One of the bodyguards stepped forward to guide me to a chair at the edge of the table, but I backed away. "Please," I whispered. I didn't mean to interrupt. Victor's expression softened just a fraction. But beneath it I saw storm clouds conflict, something raw and buried deep. He looked at his children, then back at me, and for a second the powerful man disappeared, replaced by someone carrying too much weight. "Sit," he said again, quieter. "You look like you haven't eaten properly in days." The truth of it hit like a slap. Tears burned behind my eyes. I was so tired, so cold, so empty. But pride or fear or whatever stubborn thing kept me alive made me shake my head. "I can't. Thank you, though." He did not push. Instead, he nodded once, curt. "Go back to work. But if you need anything, you come to me." I turned and fled down the stairs, mop sloshing, heart hammering. Behind me the conversation resumed, but his voice lingered in my ears, deep, conflicted, laced with something I could not name. Guilt, perhaps. Or the beginning of something far more dangerous. I scrubbed the floors until my hands bled. The inner storm, building terror at being noticed, confusion at his kindness, a flicker of curiosity about the man who had destroyed my father. Yet looked at me like I was something precious he had. Lost. The gap between us yawned wide, his world of power and wealth, mine of hunger and shadows. Yet in that single moment something shifted. A thread pulled taut, and I knew with sick certainty that it would not snap easily. The rest of that night blurred into a haze of motion and cold. I finished my shift at 2 in the morning, legs trembling from standing so long on an empty stomach. The wind had picked up outside, whipping sleet against the windows of the laundromat building. I pulled my coat tighter, threadbare wool from a thrift store 3 winters ago, and started the long walk home. Every step sent a dull ache through my shins. My shoes were thin-soled sneakers that let water seep in like paper. By the time I reached the south side, my feet were numb, fingers stiff inside gloves with holes at the fingertips. Ava was asleep when I slipped into the neighbor's apartment. Mrs. Delgado had left the door unlocked, a small kindness she never asked repayment for. I knelt beside the couch where my daughter curled under a thin blanket, her dark hair fanned across the pillow. 4 years old and already too quiet for her age. I brushed a strand from her cheek, fighting the lump in my throat. She smelled like baby shampoo and safety things I could barely provide anymore. I whispered promises I wasn't sure I could keep, then carried her back to our room, cradling her against my chest like she was the only warmth left in the world. Sleep refused to come. I lay on the mattress, staring at the ceiling cracks, replaying Victor Russo's voice in my head. The way he said my father's name. Frank Harper. 2 words that should have meant nothing to a man like him, yet they had landed like stones in still water. Ripples. Recognition. Something darker, flickering behind those ice-blue eyes. Guilt, I pushed the thought away. Men like Victor Russo did not feel guilt. They ordered things done, and the world bent. My father had bent once until he broke. Morning came gray and merciless. I dropped Ava at the free daycare run by the church 2 blocks away, another debt I could never repay, and walked back to Gibson's for my evening shift. The manager had texted me at dawn, extra hours tonight. Double pay. I needed the money too badly to question it. The restaurant was already buzzing when I arrived at 4. Delivery trucks idled at the back alley, exhaust clouding the air. I changed into my oversized uniform in the employee bathroom, avoiding my reflection in the cracked mirror. My face looked hollow, eyes sunken from too many nights without real rest. Cheeks sharp, lips cracked from the cold. I tied my hair back, scrubbed my hands until they stung, and started the prep work, polishing glasses, folding napkins, anything to keep moving. Around 6, the private room reservation popped up again. Same name, Victor Russo. Family dinner. My stomach twisted. I told myself it was coincidence. Chicago was full of powerful men, but when the doors opened at 7:30, and the same group stepped inside, Victor First children trailing bodyguards fanning out, my heart slammed against my ribs. This time, he looked directly at me. I was wiping down a high-top table near the entrance. Our eyes met across the room. He paused mid-step. The children kept walking. Sophia tugged Tommy's sleeve, pointing at the dessert cart. But Victor stopped. Completely. His expression was unreadable at first, then something shifted. A muscle in his jaw flexed. He murmured something to one of the bodyguards, who nodded and moved to block the stairwell subtly. Victor crossed the floor toward me. I froze, cloth clutched in my fist. "Emily," he said quietly. His voice carried that same gravel edge, but softer now, almost careful. "Sir?" My reply came out small, polite. The way I had learned to speak to men who could ruin you with a word. He studied me. Not like before, not suspicion exactly. Something deeper, hungrier, torn. "You didn't eat last night." I blinked. I was fine. "You weren't." He glanced at my hands, red from cold water, nails bitten short. "You're shaking." It wasn't a question. I tried to steady them. Failed. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a thick envelope. Placed it on the table between us. "Take it." I stared at the cream paper. "No name. Just wait." "I can't." "You can. And you will." His tone left no room for argument, yet his eyes, those eyes, held something raw. Conflict. Like he was fighting himself as much as me. I shook my head. "Please, I don't want charity." "It isn't charity." He leaned closer, voice dropping. "It's what I owe." My breath caught. "Oh." Before I could speak, one of the bodyguards approached, quick steps, urgent. "Boss. Problem outside." Victor's gaze never left mine, but his posture changed, shoulders squaring, the powerful man snapping back into place. "Stay here," he told me. Then to the guard, "Who 3 from the West Side crew. They're blocking the alley. Say the union deal's off unless you meet them now." Victor's mouth tightened into a thin line. "They think they can corner me at a steakhouse." He turned back to me once more. "Don't move." Then he was gone, striding toward the back exit, bodyguards falling in behind him like shadows. I stood there, envelope, untouched, heart pounding so hard I felt dizzy. The restaurant noise faded to a dull roar in my ears. I should have walked away. Should have left the money and disappeared into the night. Instead, I followed at a distance, slipping through the kitchen past the dish, pit out the service door into the alley. The wind hit me like a slap. Sleet stung my face. Victor stood at the mouth of the alley, coat open, unflinching. 3 men faced him, leather jackets, heavy boots, one holding a tire iron loosely at his side. No guns visible. Not yet. You're late on the payment, the leader said. Union boys want their cut, or we start making noise. Victor's laugh was low, dangerous. You think you can shake me down in my own city. We think you're soft since the wife died. Kids make a man hesitate. The words landed like a punch. Victor went still, deadly still. I pressed against the brick wall, breath shallow. Horror rose in my throat, sharp, acidic. These men were talking about his children, threatening them, and I was here watching powerless. One of the men glanced my way, saw me, smirked. Looks like you got a little mouse watching Russo. Victor turned. Our eyes locked again. In that instant, something fractured inside him. I saw it. Rage, protectiveness, and something fiercer, something that burned toward me. Not suspicion anymore. Not curiosity. Need. He stepped forward, putting himself between me and the 3 men without a word. Walk away, he told them, voice calm. Lethal. Or I make sure no one hears from you again. The leader laughed, short, nervous. Big talk. Victor didn't answer. He simply waited. The standoff stretched seconds that felt like hours. Wind howled. Sleet pelted my face. My legs trembled. Numbness crept up from my toes. Finally, the leader spat on the ground. This ain't over. They backed off. Slowly, then vanished into the shadows of the side street. Victor exhaled, long controlled. Then he turned to me. You shouldn't be out here. My voice cracked. I didn't know what to do. He crossed the distance in 3 strides, stopped just short of touching me, close enough that I could smell his cologne, sandalwood leather expensive, close enough to see the storm in his eyes. You followed me. Yes. Why I swallowed. I don't know. But I did. Some part of me, stupid, reckless, wanted to see if the man who knew my father's name carried the same guilt I carried every day. He reached out, hesitated, then brushed a wet strand of hair from my cheek. The touch was light. Electric. You're freezing, he murmured. Tears stung my eyes, sudden, humiliating. I'm always freezing. His thumb lingered on my skin. His breathing changed rougher, deeper. I can't let you go back to whatever hole you're living in tonight. Panic flared. I have to. My daughter. He froze. Daughter, I nodded, miserable. Ava. She's 4. I can't leave her. Something broke across his face. Remorse so deep it looked like physical pain. His hand dropped. He stepped back, running a hand through his hair. Christ, he whispered. More to himself than me. Frank Harper's daughter. With a kid. The words hung between us, heavy, impossible. He looked at me again. Really looked. Saw the thinness of my coat, the hollows under my eyes, the way I swayed slightly from exhaustion. His voice cracked just once. Get in the car. I shook my head. I can't. You will. Fiercer now. Because if I let you walk away tonight, knowing what I know, knowing what I did, I won't sleep. And I haven't slept right in years. The confession hung raw between us. I stared at him, wealthy, powerful, untouchable, yet torn open in front of me. My world tilted. Dizziness swept in. I reached for the wall to steady myself. Victor caught my elbow, gentle, firm. Easy. His touch burned through the thin fabric. His eyes searched mine, desperate, almost pleading. I don't understand, I whispered. Neither do I, he admitted. But I know I'm not letting you disappear again. He guided me toward the black SUV idling at the alley's end. The door opened before we reached it. Warm air spilled out, heated seats, leather safety. I hesitated on the threshold. Victor waited, patient, tormented. Inside me, everything screamed fear, confusion, the tiniest, most dangerous spark of hope. I stepped in. The door closed behind us with a soft final click, and the storm inside both of us roared louder than the wind outside. The SUV glided through Chicago's glittering streets, like it belonged to another world entirely. Inside, the leather seats were heated, soft, enveloping warmth that seeped into my bones for the first time in months. I sat rigid against the door. Ava's small backpack clutched against my chest like a shield. The envelope Victor had tried to give me earlier rested unopened on the seat between us. I could not bring myself to touch it. Victor drove himself tonight, no chauffeur. The bodyguards followed in a second vehicle, headlights steady in the rear-view mirror. He kept both hands on the wheel, knuckles, white eyes fixed on the road. But every few minutes he glanced at me, quick searching glances that felt like touches. Where are we going? My voice was barely audible over the low hum of the engine. My place, he answered. Lake Forest. Safe. Quiet. I swallowed. Lake Forest. The name alone conjured images of gated estates, manicured lawns, houses that cost more than entire neighborhoods on the south side. The kind of place I had only seen from the outside when delivering packages on my old bike before it got stolen. I can't just disappear, I whispered. Ava's daycare expects me tomorrow. And the rent. Rent's paid, he cut in, not looking at me. I already called. Your landlord won't bother you again. My breath hitched. How did you? Doesn't matter. His tone was clipped, but underneath it trembled something raw. You're not going back to that room tonight. I stared at my hands, chapped red from bleach water, nails ragged. The disparity pressed down on me like a physical weight. Here I sat wrapped in luxury that smelled of money and clean leather, while my daughter slept in borrowed blankets, and my life fit into one backpack. Humiliation burned in my throat. I wanted to disappear into the seat. Victor must have sensed it. He exhaled slowly, shoulders dropping a fraction. I'm not trying to own you, Emily, he said quietly. I'm trying to keep you alive. The words landed heavy. Alive, as if danger had already found me simply by standing too close to him. We turned off the highway onto a private road lined with ancient oaks, their branches bare and black against the October sky. Iron gates swung open without him stopping, sensors, cameras, silent guards in dark uniforms nodding as we passed. The driveway curved through floodlit grounds, stone fountains, trimmed hedges, a mansion that rose like something from a dream I had never dared to have. Inside, the foyer alone was larger than my entire apartment. Marble floors gleamed under crystal chandeliers. A wide staircase swept upward. The air smelled of polished wood, fresh flowers, and something faintly like cedar smoke from a distant fireplace. 2 women in neat uniforms appeared house staff, I guessed. One carried a tray with steaming mugs. The other held folded blankets. Victor spoke to them in low tones. They nodded, then one approached me gently. Miss Harper, if you'll follow me, we've prepared a room for you and your daughter. There's a crib set up, warm blankets, fresh clothes in your size. I clutched Ava tighter. Thank you. The woman smiled, kind practiced. This way. Victor watched us go. His eyes followed every step. When I glanced back from the foot of the stairs, he stood alone in the vast foyer, powerful, wealthy, untouchable, and yet the look on his face was one of a man unraveling. The guest room was on the 2nd floor. Soft, lamplight, a king-sized bed with crisp white sheets. A small adjoining room with a crib already made stuffed animals lined along the rail. A tray waited on the nightstand, hot soup, fresh bread, sliced fruit, a glass of milk. Real food, not scraps. I set Ava down carefully. She stirred, blinking up at me with sleepy confusion. Mama, baby, we're safe tonight. I fed her small spoonfuls of soup until her eyelids drooped again. When she was settled, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the untouched tray for myself. My stomach cramped with hunger, but shame kept my hands folded in my lap. A soft knock. Victor stood in the doorway, coat off now, sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing strong forearms corded with muscle and faint scars. May I come in? I nodded, voice small. Yes, sir. He stepped inside, closing the door quietly behind him. The room felt smaller with him in it. She's beautiful, he said, nodding toward Ava. She looks like her father. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Victor went still. His gaze snapped to mine, sharp, searching. I looked away, cheeks burning. Not you. Someone else. Long time ago. He exhaled, slow, ragged. Good, but the single word carried layers, relief, disappointment, something darker I could not name. He moved to the window, staring out at the darkened grounds. I had my people check on your place. The landlord was. Persuaded to forgive the back rent. The room's been cleaned. Your things are safe. You didn't have to. I did. He turned. Because the moment you said your father's name, everything changed. My heart stuttered. You knew him. I knew of him. His voice dropped. Frank Harper ran the best butcher union on the south side. Honest. Tough. The kind of man who wouldn't bend. Until someone made him me. The accusation hung unspoken. Victor's hands clenched at his sides. 12 years ago there was a consolidation, territories, unions, my father's orders. I was 28, eager, stupid. I carried them out. The confession tore from him like something physical. I felt the room tilt. Dizziness swept in sharp, nauseating. I gripped the bedpost to keep from falling. You burned our house, I whispered. His eyes closed. I gave the order. Yes. Horror clawed up my throat. Tears spilled before I could stop them, hot silent. Victor took one step toward me, then stopped as if afraid I would shatter if he came closer. "I thought everyone was gone," he said hoarsely. "The report said the family perished. I carried that weight every day since. Every time I looked at my own kids, I saw what I'd taken from someone else." He opened his eyes. They were wet. "And then tonight, you stood in that doorway and corrected me about a damn steak, with your father's voice in your mouth. And I knew. Knew what?" My voice cracked. "That the universe doesn't let debts like that go unpaid." Silence stretched thick, suffocating. Then he crossed the room in 3 strides and knelt in front of me. Not touching, just close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from him. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said. "I don't deserve it. But I will protect you. You and Ava, from anyone who tries to hurt you because of me, from the cold, from hunger, from everything I helped create." His voice broke on the last word. I stared at him, this wealthy, powerful man on his knees before a janitor in borrowed clothes, and something inside me cracked wide open. Fear, confusion, a tiny, terrified spark of something warmer. Why, I breathed. "Because the moment I saw you standing there, thin, exhausted, still, proud, I felt it." He pressed a fist to his chest. "Here, like a blade turning. I've spent years burying guilt. Tonight it rose up and wouldn't let go." He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away. I didn't. His fingers brushed my cheek, gentle, reverent. Thumb catching a tear. "I don't know what this is," he murmured. "But it's real, and it's burning me alive." The touch ignited something deep inside me, fear and longing twisted together so tightly I could not breathe. Outside tires crunched on gravel, voices urgent low. Victor stiffened, stood. "Stay here." He moved to the door, opened it a crack. A bodyguard spoke in hushed tones. "West Side crew again. They followed us from the restaurant, parked 2 blocks out. Watching the gates." Victor's jaw locked. "How many? 4 cars. Armed but holding position. Tell them to stand down. I'll handle it." He closed the door, turned back to me. "You're safe here," he said fiercely. "But if they push, I'll end it tonight." Panic surged. "Don't. Not for me. For you," he corrected. "For Ava. For the life I stole from your father." He stepped closer again, close enough that I could see the pulse hammering in his throat. "I'm going outside," he said. "Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone but me." I nodded, numb. He hesitated, then leaned down and pressed his forehead to mine for one brief, searing second. "I'm coming back," he whispered. Then he was gone. I locked the door with shaking hands, sank to the floor beside Ava's crib, wrapped my arms around myself. The mansion was silent except for the distant murmur of voices, the occasional crunch of boots on gravel. Minutes stretched, then shouting, not loud but sharp. Tense words carried on the wind. I crawled to the window, peeked through the curtains. Victor stood at the edge of the driveway alone now, bodyguards pulled back. 4 men approached from the shadows beyond the gates, hands visible, no weapons drawn. Yet, words were exchanged low, heated. Victor's posture never wavered. Tall, unyielding, radiating power. One man stepped forward, gesturing angrily. Victor listened, then spoke. Calm, controlled. The man froze, backed up a step. Victor said something else, short final. The group retreated, slowly, then vanished into the night. Victor stood there a long moment, head bowed, shoulders rising and falling with heavy breaths. When he turned back toward the house, his face was a mask of torment. He looked up straight at my window as if he knew I was watching. Our eyes met across the dark lawn, and in that instant suspicion burned away. What remained was fire, fierce, consuming, unstoppable. I pressed my palm to the cold glass. He lifted his hand, mirroring me. Then he walked back inside, and I knew deep in the tearing center of my heart that nothing would ever be the same. The silence after Victor left the room was a living thing, heavy, pressing against my ears like the weight of all those cold Southside nights when the wind howled through cracks, and I huddled over Ava, counting her breaths to stay warm. I stayed on the floor by the crib, back against the wall, knees drawn up to my chest. My body ached from days of hunger and endless scrubbing ribs pressing sharp against skin that felt too thin to hold me together. The guest room's luxury mocked me. The down comforter folded neatly on the bed, the steam tray of untouched roast chicken and mashed potatoes cooling on the side table, the scent of fresh linen that no mildew could touch. I had not eaten a full meal in weeks. Scraps from restaurant bins, watery oatmeal thinned with tap water nights, when Ava cried because her belly hurt and I had nothing but promises. Why me? Why now? Victor Russo, The man whose orders had turned my childhood home to ash 12 years ago had knelt before me like a penitent, his touch lingering on my cheek like fire. His confession clawed at my insides, guilt, remorse so raw it mirrored my own endless grief for father. But beneath it burned something else in his eyes, fierce, possessive hunger that made my pulse race with terror and a forbidden curiosity. He was wealth incarnate, the mansion's halls lined with oil paintings, worth more than my life's struggles, guards who moved like silent wealth, children dressed in cashmere sweaters, while mine shivered in thrift store. Layers. And me, destitute Emily Harper, malnourished ghost, sleep-deprived from wind-whipped nights on a sagging mattress, powerless against the world's absurd cruelties, like the bus that never came last week, leaving me to walk 5 miles in sleet with Ava on my back, or the church daycare that turned us away yesterday because space ran out, stranding us in a downpour until Mrs. Delgado took pity. A soft knock shattered the stillness. "Miss Harper, it's Maria the housekeeper." "Mr. Russo sent supper for the little one and you." I rose on numb legs, dizziness washing over me as blood rushed to my head. Opened the door a crack. Maria, kind-eyed, mid-40s, held a tray piled high, creamy mac and cheese, steaming buttered rolls, apple slices, glistening with cinnamon sugar. "A thermos of hot cocoa," he said, "to make sure you eat. All of it." "Thank you," I whispered, timid, polite as always, to those older, wiser in this world I did not belong to. Took the tray with trembling hands. Ava stirred, rubbing her eyes. "Mama smells good." We ate slowly, spoonfuls of warmth that filled cracks I had forgotten existed. Ava giggled at the cocoa mustache on her lip. For a moment, quiet, condensed stillness, just us safe, fed, but the unfairness gnawed. Why did Victor's children feast nightly while mine scavenged? Why did his remorse bloom now after years of my silent suffering? Voices rose from downstairs, tense, urgent, Victor's deep and commanding. Then his children, Tommy's boyish protest, Sophia's whimper. Curiosity pulled me to the window again. Below, floodlights bathed the driveway. Victor had returned from the gates, but now more shadows stirred, 2 black sedans creeping up the private road uninvited. My heart lurched. I scooped Ava into my arms, backing from the window. Horror bloomed. What if they came for him? For us, downstairs, the family had gathered in the private dining extension off the foyer. A warm room with oak tables, crystal decanters of sparkling cider for the kids, platters of late night. Desserts, chocolate lava cake, vanilla ice cream scooped into. Chilled bowls. Victor sat at the head, Tommy and Sophia flanking him, bodyguards at the corners. They had moved the family dessert here after the gate standoff, seeking normalcy amid brewing storms. Laughter flickered, Sophia spooning ice cream, Tommy challenging his father to a silly arm wrestle. But Victor's eyes kept drifting upstairs to my window. His inner torment raged. She's here, Frank Harper's daughter, the ghost I created. Thin as a rail, starving in my house of plenty. I should send her away, protect my kids from the blood feud I started. But God, that fire in her eyes. It's consuming me. Love this soon, no debt. Redemption. Or the blade twisting deeper for every night. I let her freeze while I drown in gold. A guard burst in. Boss dessert delivery from Gibson's. Manager sent it as apology. The tray arrived, pies, cookies, innocuous. But Victor's instincts flared too coincidental after the alley threats. Outside, tires crunched again. Uninvited. I watched from the shadows of the upper landing, Ava asleep on my shoulder. The West Side crew, emboldened, had tailed the delivery van, now blocking the gates with 4 more men spilling out. Tense shouts echoed. "Harper debts due, Russo. Your union grabbed 12 years back. Frank's blood's on you." Victor's face darkened. He rose, signaling guards. "Stay with the kids." But he glanced up, saw me peeking. Our eyes locked. That burning surge hit him again. Protect her. She's mine to shield now. This passion, it's violent, tearing me apart. Guilt for her father, hunger for her survival. I can't lose her. He strode out the French doors to the terrace overlooking the driveway, bold confrontation under the October stars. No excessive force. Words first, power in his stance. "You want war on my lawn." With my children inside, Victor's voice boomed, fair-skinned face etched with violent inner conflict, remorse for past sins fueling protective fury. The leader sneered. "Pay up or we take what's owed." "Heard you got Frank's girl here." Soft spot horror gripped me. They know. How anxiety clawed Ava in my arms, my poverty's curse dragging danger to innocence. Sophia cried out below, "Daddy, Tommy, what's happening?" Victor tensed, kids in crosshairs. Then glint. From the tree line across the road, moonlight on metal. Sniper scope aimed through the terrace window straight at Victor during dessert, now framing his back as he faced the crew distraction. Time slowed. My father's old lessons surged, spot the flash, the anomaly. No janitor knew this but survival's cruel tutor. "Get down," I screamed, voice raw, shattering the night. I bolted down the stairs. Powerless legs, burning, reached the terrace doors. Saw the inside gunman disguised delivery boy inching from shadows toward the kids' table, submachine hidden. Victor whirled at my cry. The shot cracked high-velocity whine through glass. I lunged, grabbed the heavy oak service cart laden with desserts. 300 pounds easy. Adrenaline from starving nights fueling desperate strength. Flipped it with a guttural cry, wood splintering as the bullet embedded inches from Victor's chest. Shards flew. Ice cream splattered. Chaos guards tackled the inside gunman, tense grapple, no shots fired, pinning him wordlessly. Outside, Victor roared orders. "Stand down, secure the line," Sophia wailed. Tommy shielded her instinctively. I crumpled amid the mess, covered in cake frosting and shattered china arm, sliced by flying porcelain blood, trickling warm down my thin wrist. Pain bloomed, numbing shock dizziness, pitching the world sideways. Why did I? He destroyed us. But those kids. That old wound in him. Victor spun eyes wild, landing on me. The surge hit love, overwhelming, passionate, from that first steakhouse glance now exploding amid smoke. She saved us. My kids. Me. This poor angel I damned, flipping death itself. Remorse rips me. I want to devour her pain, make her mine forever. He crossed the debris in strides, hauled me up, strong arms enveloping my frail frame. "Emily. Christ, why saw the glint," I gasped, soft, timid amid horror. "Sniper. Your children." His face crumpled, gnawing guilt for pulling me into this violent conflict as he crushed me to his chest. Wealth's armor cracked his silk shirt against my rags, his power cradling my poverty. Guards swarmed the tree line. Tense, standoff rival crew scattering without shots. Leader shouting, "Retreat. This ain't worth it." Sophia ran to us, hugging my leg. "You saved Daddy Tommy like a hero." Victor knelt forehead to mine, breath ragged. You're bleeding. For me. After everything. Tears streamed, mine his. Inner worlds tore. My confusion hated him. Saved him. Why this pull? His torment love her fiercely. She's the redemption I crave. But my sins doom us. Quiet stillness amid sirens wailing distant, just us breaths mingling, Ava's cry upstairs, pulling me back to reality. He lifted me effortlessly, princess. Carry through marble halls, disparity, screaming his strength verses. My malnourished weakness. "You're not going back to the cold," he vowed, voice breaking. "Never." I nodded, numb, disoriented, pain throbbing, heart ripping open to this impossible fire. The west side fled into night, but drama escalated. Another car screeched up, rival scout spotting me. Bold yell Harper's spawn, and her Victor deposited me on a foyer couch, guards intercepting the intruder at gates in wordless tension, forcing retreat. Unjust misery peaked. My cut needed stitches, but Ava toddled down, frightened another unfair blow, my poverty chaining her to peril. Victor scooped her too. Safe now. Both of you. His eyes on me, burning love, possessive storm. And in that numbing pause, worlds collided, poverty's ghost loved by power's king. The tearing intensified. No escape. The foyer chandelier cast golden shards across marble that gleamed like frozen water. Victor carried me through it as if I weighed nothing, my thin frame cradled against his chest, blood from the cut on my arm seeping dark red into the white cuff of his shirt. Ava trailed behind, small hand clutched in Maria's, her eyes wide with the confusion only a 4-year-old can carry without words. Sophia and Tommy hovered close, Sophia tugging Victor's sleeve every few steps. "Daddy, is she okay? She saved us." Victor's voice came rough, strained. "She's going to be fine, sweetheart. She's strong. Strong." The word tasted bitter on my tongue even as I heard it. I had never felt strong. I had felt cold, hungry, invisible. Nights, when the wind sliced through the single-pane window and I wrapped Ava in every scrap of clothing we owned, whispering stories about warmer places so she would not cry. Days when the landlord banged on the door for rent. I did not have threatening eviction, while I stood silent, powerless shame burning hotter than any fever. Malnourished arms that trembled lifting mops, sleep-deprived eyes that blurred at the edges, body so thin my ribs showed through the oversized uniform like ridges under paper. And now this man, this king of Chicago's shadows, carried me like something precious through halls lined with wealth I could never imagine owning. We reached a wide corridor on the east wing. Double doors opened to a sweet sitting room with velvet sofas, fireplace already crackling, bedroom beyond with a 4-poster bed draped in cream linens. A doctor-weighted older man in a crisp white coat, medical bag open on a side table. He had been summoned the moment the first shot cracked glass. Victor set me gently on the edge of the bed. His hands lingered at my waist, a heartbeat longer than necessary, warmth, seeping through fabric, steadying the dizziness that still spun the room. Then he stepped back, jaw tight. "Stitch her up," he told the doctor. "Whatever she needs. Antibiotics, pain medicine, everything." The doctor nodded already, pulling on gloves. Miss Harper, I'll need to clean that cut. It's deep, but clean. You'll be sore tomorrow. I nodded, mutely voice, lost somewhere between shock and shame. Ava climbed onto the bed beside me, pressing her small body to my side. Sophia and Tommy peeked from the doorway until Victor knelt and gathered them close. Go with Maria. Get ready for bed. I'll come tuck you in soon. They hesitated, Tommy especially staring at me with something like awe. She flipped the cart like a superhero. Victor's throat worked. She did. Now go. When the children left, the room quieted, except for the soft clink of medical instruments. The doctor worked efficiently, cleaning, numbing, stitching. Each tug pulled fresh pain through my arm, but it was nothing compared to the storm inside. Victor paced near the fireplace, 3 steps one way, 3 back. His fair skin looked pale under the lamplight shadows, carving deeper lines around his mouth. Every few seconds, his gaze flicked to me, raw, tormented. She bled for my children. For me, after I took her father, her home, her future. How do I carry this? How do I not fall to my knees again? This love, it's tearing me open. I want to shield her from every wind that ever touched her skin. I want to burn the world that let her starve. When the doctor finished bandaging my arm, he packed his bag. Rest. No heavy lifting. I'll check tomorrow. Victor walked him out, then returned alone. Closed the door, locked it. He crossed to the bed. Knelt again, this powerful man on his knees before me for the 2nd time tonight. Ava had fallen asleep against my shoulder, exhausted by fear and sugar and warmth. Victor reached out slow, careful, and brushed a strand of hair from my forehead. His fingers trembled. You could have let it happen, he whispered. You could have stayed upstairs. Safe. I saw the kids, I answered softly. Timid. Polite even now. Sophia. She looked so small. His eyes closed. A muscle jumped in his jaw. When he opened them again, they were wet. I destroyed your family, he said, voice cracking on the last word. And you saved mine. The confession hung between us, violent tearing. I felt it in my chest, confusion, twisting with something warmer, something terrifying. Curiosity about this man who carried guilt like a second skin. Fear that his protection would cost more than I could pay. Horror at how easily I had stepped into danger for strangers who shared his blood. I didn't think, I murmured. I just moved. He took my uninjured hand in both of his large, calloused from years of power and violence, yet gentle now. You moved like someone who knows loss. Who knows what it costs to lose the people you love. Tears slipped down my cheeks, silent, unstoppable. I do. He bowed his head, forehead resting against our joined hands. I'm so sorry, Emily. For every cold night, for every empty plate, for every time you carried your daughter through sleet because you had no other choice. The words broke something inside me, numbness, giving way to sharp, aching pain. I had never heard anyone name my suffering so plainly, never felt it witnessed. Victor lifted his gaze. You're staying here, not as a guest, as family. You and Ava. No more shelters, no more landlords, no more hunger. Panic flared. I can't. I don't belong here. Look at me. Look at this. I gestured weakly at my thin frame, the blood-stained uniform, the borrowed blanket pulled around my shoulders. I'm nothing. You're everything, he said fiercely. You're the woman who flipped a 300-pound cart to save my children. You're the daughter of the man I wronged. You're the reason I'm still breathing tonight. His thumb traced slow circles on the back of my hand, possessive, reverent. The touch sent heat racing through me despite the chill that never quite left my bones. I don't know how to do this, I whispered. I've never had safety. Then let me give it to you. His voice dropped lower, rough with emotion. Let me protect you. Let me make up for every day I stole from you. The room spun again, dizziness from blood loss, exhaustion, the sheer unfairness of it all. Wealth poured around me, the fire's glow on silk drapes, the scent of clean cotton sheets, the distant hum of a mansion that never knew cold. And me still hungry in my soul, still carrying the weight of too many nights when the only heat came from holding Ava close. A soft knock interrupted. One of the bodyguards. Boss, perimeter's clear. West side pulled back, but they left a message taped to the gate. Victor stood reluctance in every line of his body. He opened the door just enough to take the folded paper, then shut it again. He read it silently. His face hardened. What I asked, voice small. They know you're here. They know who you are. He crumpled the note. Frank Harper's daughter, they think they can use you to hurt me. Fear coiled tight in my stomach. Then send us away. We'll disappear again. No. The word came like a blade. They don't touch what's mine. Mine. The claim landed heavy, possessive, burning. His eyes met mine, and the surge was unmistakable. Love fierce and immediate. consuming every shadow of suspicion that had ever lingered. Guilt still tore at him, violent, unrelenting, but it fueled something deeper now. Protection. Devotion. A need so intense it shook the powerful man standing before me. He crossed back to the bed, knelt once more. This time he cupped my face in both hands, gentle, trembling. "I'm not letting you go back to that life," he said. "Not tonight. Not ever. You stay here. You heal. You eat. You sleep in warmth. And I will stand between you and every threat that comes." Tears spilled again, mine his. Quiet, condensed stillness wrapped around us, just breaths, just touch, just the crackle of the fire. Then Ava stirred, murmuring in her sleep. Victor looked at her, softened, broken, open. "She's safe too," he whispered. "Both of you." He rose slowly, pressed a kiss to my forehead, lingering reverent. "Rest. I'll be right outside." When he left, the door clicked shut. I lay back against pillows that smelled of lavender and money. Ava curled into my side. The bandage on my arm throbbed. My heart throbbed harder. Unjust, absurd, impossible. A poor janitor in a mansion. A destroyer become protector. A heart once frozen, now burning. The tearing inside me deepened, confusion and fear warring with the tiniest, most dangerous seed of trust. Outside, wind rattled the windows, but for the first time in years, the cold did not reach me. Victor stood guard in the hall, silent, tormented in love. And the night stretched on heavy with what came next. Morning light filtered through heavy silk curtains, soft and golden, the kind of light that belonged to houses where no one ever worried about the electric bill. I woke slowly, body heavy with unfamiliar comfort, the mattress cradling every aching joint, the sheets smelling of clean laundry and faint lavender instead of mildew and despair. For one disoriented heartbeat, I forgot where I was. Then memory rushed back, shattered glass, the weight of the card in my hands, Victor's arms around me, his forehead pressed to mine in the foyer. Ava still slept beside me, small chest rising and falling in perfect peace. Her cheeks had color this morning, real color, not the pale gray exhaustion I had grown used to seeing. The bandage on my arm throbbed dully under fresh gauze, but the pain felt distant compared to the storm churning inside my chest. I slipped from the bed on unsteady legs. My bare feet met thick carpet instead of cracked linoleum. The robe Maria had left hung on the chair, soft terry cloth, pale blue, far too luxurious for my thin frame. I wrapped it around myself anyway, sleeves swallowing my hands, hem brushing my calves. In the mirror across the room, I looked like a ghost playing dress-up, hollow cheeks, shadowed eyes, collarbones sharp as accusations. 12 years of hunger and cold had carved me down to this malnourished, sleep-deprived, a walking reminder of every unjust night I had endured while the world moved on without me. A soft knock. Maria again carrying a breakfast tray, scrambled eggs, fluffy and warm, thick slices of bacon, fresh fruit arranged like art orange juice in a crystal glass coffee steaming in porcelain. My stomach clenched, hunger so sharp it hurt. "Mr. Russo asked me to bring this up," she said gently. "He's downstairs with the children. Said to tell you to eat slowly. Your body needs time." I nodded, voice small. "Thank you." She set the tray on a small table by the window, hesitated. "He's different this morning. Quiet. Like he's carrying something too heavy." When she left, I sat and stared at the food. Tears blurred the edges. How many mornings had I fed Ava the last crumbs of yesterday's bread, while my own stomach growled empty? How many times had I pretended fullness, so she would not worry? And now this abundance I had never earned, never deserved, laid out, like an apology from the man who helped create the emptiness. I ate slowly. Each bite felt like betrayal of the girl who had survived on scraps of the pride that had kept me standing when everything else fell. But Ava stirred, smelled the bacon, and her sleepy smile undid me. I fed her bites from my plate, watched her eyes widen with wonder. When the tray was mostly empty, another knock, sharper this time. "Victor." He stepped inside alone, closing the door with deliberate quiet. No suit today, just dark slacks, white shirt open at the collar, sleeves rolled to his forearms. The casualness only made his power more evident, broad shoulders, controlled strength, the quiet authority of a man who never had to raise his voice to be obeyed. His gaze found me immediately. Took in the robe too big for me, the way I held the coffee mug like it might vanish, the faint tremor in my hands. "You ate," he said. Relief edged his voice. "Some," I answered softly. Timid, polite, the habits of a lifetime spent speaking carefully to those who held power over me. He crossed the room but stopped several feet away, as if afraid coming closer would frighten me. Or himself. "How's the arm? Better? Thank you for the doctor." He nodded once. Then silence stretched thick, loaded. Finally he spoke, voice low. "I had my people run your name last night. Quietly. No alerts. Just confirmation." My heart stuttered. Confirmation of what that you are who you say you are. Emily Harper, daughter of Frank Harper. Born in Chicago. No arrests, no warrants. Social security number traces back to a child born in 1999, but the paper trail thins after 2013. After the fire. He knew. Of course he knew. I set the mug down before my shaking hands could spill it. You already knew that part. I knew the report said everyone died. His throat worked. I believed it. For 12 years I believed it. The confession landed like a physical blow. I swayed, dizziness sweeping in again, numbness creeping up my legs. I gripped the back of the chair to stay upright. Victor took one step closer. Stopped, hands clenched at his sides. I need to know the rest, he said. Everything. Not because I don't trust you, because I need to understand what I did. What I'm still doing to you by keeping you here. Tears burned behind my eyes. You want the truth. Yes. I looked at Ava, still sleeping innocent, and the dam broke. I was 13, I began, voice barely above a whisper. The night of the fire. My mother hid me in the root cellar under the back porch. She said to stay quiet no matter what I heard. I heard everything, gunshots, shouting flames. Your men's voices. I heard you give the order to torch the house. Victor flinched as if struck. His face drained of color. I crawled out when the smoke cleared. I continued. Everything was gone. My parents, my little brother. I took the bus downtown, with nothing but the clothes I was wearing and $20 my mother had sewn into my coat hem. I changed my name, cut my hair, slept in shelters until I was old enough to work under the table. I met a boy when I was 19, thought maybe life could be different. Ava came. He left before she was born. I've been alone since. Each word tore something loose inside me, old grief, fresh humiliation. I stood there in borrowed luxury, confessing poverty to the man whose shadow had shaped it. Victor closed the distance now. Knelt in front of me again, knees hitting carpet without hesitation. I'm sorry, he rasped. Words aren't enough. They'll never be enough. But I'm sorry. His voice cracked on the last syllable. Tears slipped down his cheeks, silent, unashamed. I stared at him, this wealthy, powerful man crying at my feet, and something inside me shattered. Why are you doing this? I whispered. Why keep me here? Why cry for me? Because I love you, he said simply. Raw. Immediate. From the moment you corrected me about that ribeye, from the second I saw how thin your wrists were, how tired your eyes looked, it hit me like a freight train. Guilt, remorse, and underneath it love. Fierce, burning. I want to give you everything I took away. I want to shield you from every cold night, every empty stomach, every landlord's threat. I want to be the man who makes sure you and Ava never know hunger again. The declaration landed like thunder in the quiet room. I swayed, shock, confusion, violent inner tearing. Part of me wanted to run. Part of me wanted to fall into his arms. Horror at the speed of it. Curiosity about what safety might feel like. Fear that it was all a dream that would vanish at dawn. Victor reached up slow, careful, and cupped my face. Thumbs brushing away tears I had not realized were falling. I know it's too soon, he murmured. I know I don't deserve this. But it's real. And I won't hide it. Ava stirred, then murmuring mama in her sleep. Victor looked at her, softened, broken open wider. She's safe, he said again. You both are. No more running. No more cold. He stood slowly, pulled me up with him, gentle, reverent, wrapped his arms around me. I stiffened at first, guarded, fearful. Then slowly, achingly, I let myself lean into him. His heartbeat thundered against my ear. Strong, steady, wealthy in ways I could never repay. Quiet stillness wrapped us, his breath in my hair, my tears soaking his shirt. Ava's soft snores the only sound. Then outside, tires on gravel. Urgent voices. Another confrontation brewing at the gates. Victor tensed but did not let go. They won't touch you, he vowed. Not while I breathe. The drama escalated, tense, bold shadows moving beyond the windows. But in that moment, in the golden light of a borrowed morning, the tearing inside me shifted. Not gone. Deeper. But now laced with something new. Hope. Fierce. Terrifying. Burning. The afternoon sun slanted low through the tall windows of Victor's study, turning the polished mahogany desk into a slab of liquid gold. I sat in one of the deep leather chairs opposite him, Ava napping upstairs under Maria's watchful eye. My bandaged arm rested in my lap like a foreign object. The stitches pulled with every breath. The robe had been replaced with borrowed clothes, soft gray sweatpants, and a long-sleeved cotton shirt that still felt too fine against my skin. Even these simple things carried the faint scent of new fabric of money that never had to choose between warmth and food. Victor stood at the tall windows back to me, hands clasped behind him. He had not spoken much since breakfast. The silence between us was no longer empty. It thrummed with everything unsaid. Every time he looked at me now, the air thickened his gaze, carrying that same fierce, burning love. From the moment he first knelt before me, now laced with fresh torment. He had confessed it plainly without shame. I still did not know what to do with it. A sharp knock broke the quiet. One of the bodyguards, Rocco, broad-shouldered and quiet-spoken, entered with a tablet in hand. His face was pale. "Boss, we traced the sniper's phone. And the inside man, the one who posed as the delivery driver." Victor turned. And Rocco hesitated, swallowed. "The texts didn't come from the West Side crew. They came from inside our network. Verified ID, time-stamped, authorized." Victor went still. "Who?" Rocco's voice dropped to a whisper. "Capo Marco. Your second. 23 years. The name landed like a slap. Marco, the man who had stood at Victor's right hand, since they were boys who had carried Tommy on his shoulders at birthday parties, who had sworn loyalty over blood. Victor's face did not change at first. Then something cracked behind his eyes, slow, terrible. "Bring the logs," he said, voice flat. Rocco handed over the tablet. Victor scrolled. "Read." His knuckles whitened around the edges of the device. I watched from the chair, heart hammering. Confusion swirled with rising dread. Marco had been in the foyer last night, standing near Sophia and Tommy when the cart flipped. He had helped pin the inside gunman. He had looked me in the eye afterward and said, "You saved the family, kid." Victor set the tablet down with deliberate calm. He set it up. The distraction at the gates. The sniper positioned for the dessert window. When Emily screamed and flipped the cart, he had to improvise. He shot the delivery man himself to silence him before he could talk. The room tilted. I gripped the armrests. Horror clawed up my throat, sharp, acidic. The man who had smiled at Ava this morning had tried to murder children. Victor's children. Victor looked at me then. His eyes were storm-dark. "He knew about the safe," he said quietly. "The digital lock. The riddle my father built in. What runs deeper than the river?" He changed the sequence this morning. Said it was a security update. We're locked out of the offshore accounts. If he drains them before we regain access, the Empire collapses overnight. My breath caught. The accounts. Everything, Victor confirmed. Construction holdings. Union funds. Offshore reserves. Billions. Gone in minutes if he triggers the wipe. I stared at the carpet, thick, hand-knotted wool worth more than every dollar I had ever earned. The disparity pressed down again, his world of vast, invisible wealth hanging by a thread, my world of literal crumbs and cold nights. Yet here we sat, both facing ruin because of the same betrayal. Victor paced 3 steps, turned 3 steps. His voice came low, ragged. "Marco was there the night we burned your house. He handed me the torch. I was too young, too eager to prove myself. He told me it was clean. Necessary. I believed him. The confession tore from him like something physical. He stopped pacing. Looked at me. I've carried that night for 12 years. Thought the debt was paid in guilt. Now he wants to finish what he started, take everything. Including you. Me." The word hung between us, possessive, terrified. Victor crossed the room in 2 strides. Knelt before my chair again. Took my uninjured hand in both of his. "I won't let him," he said fiercely. "Not you. Not Ava. Not my children. Not the life I owe you." His thumbs traced slow circles over my knuckles, reverent, desperate. The touch sent heat racing through me despite the chill that lived in my bones. "I don't know how to fix this," I whispered. "I'm nobody. I scrub floors. I count change for bus fare. I can't fight this." "You already did," he answered. "You saved us once. You're saving me again just by being here." He rose, pulled me up with him, gentle but unyielding. Led me to the desk where the tablet still glowed. "The lock," he said. "The riddle. What runs deeper than the river? We've tried water, blood, brotherhood. 3 attempts left before the account's auto-wipe." I stared at the screen. The prompt stared back. Simple words, hiding a lifetime of secrets. Victor's voice cracked. "Marco knew my father loved Chicago history. The old unions. The stockyards. The underground tunnels from the Prohibition days, how men moved, money moved, power moved through the city without being seen. Something flickered in my memory, my father's voice late nights at the kitchen table telling stories while I sat on his lap. "The tunnels," I murmured. "They ran under the river. But what ran deeper?" Victor looked at me sharp, hopeful. I closed my eyes. Heard father's low rumble. "The river carries water. The tunnels carried men. But what ran deeper than both M?" What kept the unions alive when the bosses tried to drown us, I opened my eyes. Shadows, I said softly. The shadow under the river. The hidden paths no one could tax or trace. The thing that outlasted every raid, every betrayal. Victor stared. I stepped forward. Fingers trembling, I typed into the prompt box. Shadow, hit enter. The screen flashed red once, twice, then green. Access granted. Victor exhaled a sound like a man who had been holding his breath for years. The accounts froze. Transfers halted. Marco locked out. Rocco burst back in. It worked. We've got control. Victor did not move. His gaze stayed on me wide, stunned overflowing. You knew, he breathed. My father taught me, I answered. Voice small, timid. He said the shadow is always there, even when the light tries to burn everything away. Victor reached out, cupped my face with both hands. His thumbs brushed my cheekbones, gentle, reverent. You saved the Empire, he whispered. Again, tears slipped down my face. I didn't mean to. I just remembered. He pulled me into his arms, crushing, protective. I felt his heartbeat thunder against my ear, wild, unsteady. His breath came ragged. I love you, he said against my hair. God help me, I love you so much it hurts. Every time I look at you, I see what I took. Every time you speak, I see what you survived. And I want to spend the rest of my life making sure you never know cold again. The words tore through me, violent, numbing, beautiful. I clung to him, thin arms around his waist, face buried in his shirt. The scent of him, sandalwood, expensive soap safety, filled every empty place inside me. Quiet stillness wrapped us. His heartbeat slowing, my tears soaking cotton, the fire crackling softly in the hearth. Then Rocco cleared his throat. Marco's gone. Took a car 30 minutes ago. Headed downtown. He knows we're coming. Victor stiffened. Released me slowly, reluctance in every inch. He looked down at me, eyes fierce, tormented, loving. I have to end this, he said. Tonight. Fear coiled tight. Don't go alone. I won't. He brushed his lips across my forehead, lingering, searing. But you stay here. Safe. With Ava. With my kids. I nodded, numb, terrified, aching. He turned to leave. Paused at the door. Look at me, he said softly. I did. I'm coming back to you, he vowed. Always. The door closed behind him. I sank into the chair legs, giving out. Dizziness swept in again. Shock, confusion, the violent tearing of a heart that had learned to survive alone and now beat for a man who had once destroyed everything. Outside engines roared to life. Tires crunched gravel. Victor went to war. And inside me the storm raged, louder than ever, love, guilt, hope, fear, all colliding in the golden light of a borrowed afternoon. The shadow had spoken. But the darkness was not finished yet. The house settled into an uneasy hush after Victor left. Engines faded down the long driveway, swallowed by the October night. I stood at the study window long after the taillights vanished, fingers pressed to the cool glass, watching shadows pool under the oaks. The bandage on my arm itched under fresh gauze. The stitches tugged with every heartbeat. My body still carried the memory of hunger, ribs sharp against skin, limbs weak from too many nights, when sleep came only after exhaustion finally won over cold. Even here, wrapped in borrowed softness, the old ache lingered like a ghost under my ribs. Maria appeared quietly at the doorway. The children are asking for you, Miss Emily. Sophia won't settle. Tommy keeps looking at the stairs. I nodded. I'll go to them. Upstairs, the hallway lights had been dimmed to a soft amber glow. Sophia's room was first pink walls, canopy bed piled with stuffed animals, a nightlight shaped like a crescent moon casting gentle stars across the ceiling. She sat upright in the center of the mattress, knees drawn to her chest, rabbit clutched tight. I can't sleep, she whispered when I stepped inside. What if the bad men come back? I sat on the edge of the bed, careful, slow, afraid my thin frame might somehow dirty the pristine comforter. They won't. Your daddy went to make sure. She looked at me with wide, serious eyes. You saved us. Like a mommy would. The words pierced clean through me. I swallowed hard. I just didn't want anyone to get hurt. Tommy appeared in the doorway, then hair-mussed pajamas too big at the cuffs. He hesitated, then crossed the carpet and climbed onto the bed beside his sister. Dad said you knew things. About the safe. About shadows. I managed a small smile. My father taught me. Tommy studied me a long moment. Then he reached into the pocket of his pajama shirt and pulled out a small folded piece of paper. Unfolded it carefully. This is from last winter, he said quietly. When Sophia got really sick. Asthma. The inhaler ran out at 3 a.m. Dad was out of town. Marco said he'd handle it, but he didn't. The school nurse called, and nobody came. My breath caught. Tommy continued, voice small. The next day at school, there was a brown paper bag on my desk. Inside, an inhaler. Brand new. No note. Just the medicine Sophia needed. The teacher said, some lady dropped it off at the office. Said it was for Sophia Russo. Nobody knew who. Sophia's eyes widened. That was you. I could not speak at first. The memory flooded back, overhearing the school secretary on the phone while I mopped the hallway at the community center next door. A frantic call about a little girl struggling to breathe. I had walked 3 miles in sleet to the pharmacy, used the last $40 I had saved for groceries, bought the inhaler and left it anonymously at the school office. Then walked home again, empty-handed, stomach cramping with hunger so Ava could eat that night. I nodded once. Tears slipped free before I could stop them. Tommy looked at me, really looked. You didn't even know us. Why? Because... My voice cracked. No child should have to fight to breathe. Not when someone can help. Sophia reached out, then small hand finding mine. Her fingers were warm, soft, untouched by cold nights or hunger pangs. She squeezed. You're like a real mommy, she whispered. The kind that stays. The room blurred. I could not breathe past the knot in my throat. Tommy slid closer, hesitant at first, then leaned against my side. Sophia curled into the other. 2 small bodies trusting warm. I sat frozen, afraid to move, afraid the moment would shatter like everything else in my life had. Downstairs, a door opened, far away, muffled. Footsteps. Voices. Rocco's low murmur. I tensed. Tommy felt it. Dad's back. I shook my head. Not yet. But the footsteps climbed the stairs, quick, purposeful. Victor appeared in the doorway. Coat, still on, hair damp from night mist, eyes wild with something between fury and relief. He stopped dead when he saw us, me, in the center of his children's bed. Sophia's head on my shoulder. Tommy's hand still in mine. For a long second, he did not move. Then his face crumpled, raw, unguarded. He leaned against the doorframe as if his legs might give out. They told you, he said hoarsely. Not a question. Tommy nodded. She's the one who brought the inhaler. Last winter. Victor closed his eyes. A tremor ran through him, visible, violent. When he opened them again, tears stood bright in the lamplight. He crossed the room slowly, knelt beside the bed eye level with his children with me. Sophia reached out first. Daddy, she's crying. Victor looked at me. Really looked. Saw the tears tracking down my cheeks, the way my thin shoulders shook under the borrowed shirt. I know, he whispered. He reached past his daughter, slow, careful, and cupped my face with one hand, thumb brushing away a tear. You helped them when I couldn't, he said, voice breaking. When I was gone, when Marco, my own man, failed them, you walked through sleet. You gave what you didn't have. For children you didn't know. I shook my head. It was nothing. It was everything. His voice cracked open. You've been giving everything for years. While I built walls of money and power and let you starve on the other side. The confession tore from him, gnawing remorse made audible. He leaned his forehead against mine, breath ragged, warm against my skin. I love you, he said again, fiercer this time. Not because you saved me tonight. Not because you saved my empire. Because you saved my children when no one else did. Because you're still giving even when the world took everything from you. Sophia patted his arm. Don't cry, Daddy. He laughed, wet, broken sound. Too late, sweetheart. Tommy looked between us. She can stay right. Like. Forever, Victor's gaze never left mine. If she'll have us. The question hung simple, enormous. I could not speak. Dizziness swept in again. Shock, confusion, the violent collision of poverty's long shadow and this sudden blinding light. My life had been cold wind through cracked windows, empty cabinets, nights counting Ava's breaths so I would not panic. Now 2 children leaned against me like I belonged. Now a man who could buy cities knelt before me, tears on his face, offering a future I had never dared imagine. Quiet, condensed stillness wrapped the room. Small breaths, fire crackling downstairs. The soft tick of a clock somewhere in the hall. Then Victor spoke low for me alone. I have to finish this tonight. Marco's holed up downtown. He thinks he can run. He's wrong. Fear coiled tight. Be careful. He nodded. Pressed his lips to my forehead, lingering, searing. I'm coming home to you, he vowed. To all 3 of you. He stood, looked at his children, listened to Emily. She's in charge until I get back. Tommy grinned. She's better at it than Marco anyway. Victor laughed, short-pained. Then he turned to leave. At the door he paused, looked back. I love you, he said again. Simply. Finally. Then he was gone. The children curled closer. Sophia yawned. Tommy's head drooped against my shoulder. I held them thin arms around small bodies and felt the tearing inside me reach a new depth. Not just grief anymore. Not just fear. Love. Fierce, terrifying, overwhelming. A poor janitor in a mansion of light. A heart once frozen, now burning for a man who had once cast the shadow. Outside engines roared again. Victor going to war. Inside, 3 children slept against me. And the night stretched on, unjust, absurd, beautiful, unbearable. The storm had not ended. It had only found its center. The night deepened into a heavy quiet. Sophia and Tommy had finally drifted off in Sophia's room, curled together under the canopy like small animals seeking warmth. I carried Ava back to our borrowed suite, her head heavy on my shoulder, breath soft and even. The hallway lights dimmed automatically as I passed sensors whispering luxury I still could not believe belonged to the same world as mine. Every step reminded me of the disparity, my bare feet silent on carpet thick enough to swallow sound. While for years I had tiptoed across splintered floorboards so thin the cold seeped up like water. I laid Ava in the crib already made with fresh sheets, smelling of sunshine, and stood watching her sleep. My reflection caught in the darkened window, thin face, shadowed eyes, borrowed clothes hanging loose on a frame whittled by too many winters of empty cupboards and wind that found every crack. I had not slept more than 4 hours at a stretch in months. Fear of landlords, fear of missing a shift, fear that one missed meal would tip Ava into sickness. Now the bed waited behind me, vast and soft, promising rest I did not trust. A soft chime from the hallway security panel. Footsteps. Victor. He entered without knocking, this time coat gone, shirt untucked, sleeves rolled higher. His fair skin looked drawn under the lamplight jaw, shadowed with stubble. He closed the door quietly, leaned against it for a moment as if gathering strength. "He's contained," Victor said low. "Marco. Downtown warehouse. My men have him. No shots fired." He talked fast once he saw the cuffs. I nodded numb. What did he say? Victor's gaze flicked to Ava, then back to me. Enough to bury him twice over. But he dropped one name before we shut him up. He paused. Swallowed. "Yours." My heart stuttered. "Mine. Not just Emily Harper." Victor stepped closer. Slow. Careful. He said, "Tell her the kid's safe." For now. The room tilted. Dizziness rushed in, sharp, nauseating. I reached for the crib rail to steady myself. What kid? Victor's eyes searched mine, tormented, desperate. He knew about Ava. Knew where the neighbor kept her during your shifts. Said Marco's crew had eyes on her since the steakhouse. Insurance, he called it. Horror clawed up my throat, cold, suffocating. "They took her." "No." Victor's voice cracked. "We got there first. Rocco's team pulled her and the neighbor out 15 minutes ago. They're in the East Wing now, safe room. Guards at every door." Relief hit like a wave, then crashed against fresh terror. I swayed. Victor caught me, strong arms banding around my waist, holding me upright when my knees buckled. "Easy," he murmured against my hair. "She's here. Safe. I swear it." I clutched his shirt, thin fingers twisting fabric that cost more than my last month's rent. Tears came fast, silent, soaking through cotton. They were watching her. All this time, because of me, because of me, Victor cut in fiercely. Because I pulled you into this. Because my world touches everything it shouldn't. He guided me to the small sofa by the window, sat me down, knelt in front of me again. His hands framed my face, thumbs wiping tears with a tenderness that tore at something deep inside. "I sent 2 teams, he continued. One to Marco. One to the neighbor's building. They found a man in the stairwell watching the door. He ran when he saw my men. We have him now too." I stared at him, shock numbing the edges of fear. You protected her. Before I even knew." "I protect what's mine," he said simply. Then softer, "And she's mine too, whether you want that or not." The words hung enormous, impossible. Victor exhaled, shaky, reached into his pocket, pulled out a small plastic bag, sealed evidence bag, inside a single strand of dark hair, and a folded piece of paper. "Marco had this on him," he said. "He was going to use it. Leverage, blackmail, whatever it took to get the accounts back." I took the bag with trembling fingers. Opened the folded note. Scrawled in Marco's tight handwriting, DNA match confirmed. Paternity probability 99.9%. Subject Ava Harper. Father Victor Russo. Conception approximately 5 years ago. Chicago General Hospital records sealed. Bar on Halsted. One night. She never told him. The paper slipped from my fingers. The room spun, violent, disorienting. I pressed a hand to my mouth to stifle the sob that clawed up. Memories flooded 5 years ago, grieving lost one reckless night in a dimly lit bar after Father's anniversary. A man with kind eyes and a quiet voice who bought me coffee when I could not afford it. We talked until closing. Then his apartment. One night. No names exchanged after. I left before dawn, certain it meant nothing. 9 months later, Ava arrived, my miracle, my secret, my reason to keep breathing. Victor watched me, face pale, eyes wide with shock that mirrored my own. "You didn't know," he whispered. I shook my head, tears streaming. I thought he was just a stranger. I never looked back. I couldn't afford to. He closed his eyes, pain etching deeper lines around his mouth. When he opened them, tears stood bright. "I have a daughter," he breathed. "I have another daughter, and I never knew." The confession shattered him, visible fracture. He bowed his head, shoulders shaking once, twice. Then he looked up, eyes raw, overflowing. "I've spent years building walls," he said hoarsely. "Power, money, control. To never feel this again, loss, guilt, helplessness. And all this time, she was out there, with you, cold, hungry, because I walked away that morning too." He reached for my hands, took them gently, turned them palm up, studied the calluses, the faint scars from bleach and cold. "You raised her alone," he said, "while I slept in silk and never once wondered if I left something behind." I pulled back, guarded, fearful. "I didn't know. If I had, you would have told me." His voice cracked. "Even after what I did to your family." Silence stretched, painful, honest. "I don't know," I admitted softly. "I was scared. Alone. I thought, if I kept her hidden, she'd be safe from all of it. From men like you." Victor flinched but did not look away. "I understand," he whispered. "And I hate that I understand." He rose slowly. Walked to the crib. Looked down at Ava, sleeping peacefully, unaware. "She has my nose," he said, voice thick. "And your eyes." I stood, legs unsteady. Joined him at the crib rail. We stood side by side, watching her breathe. Victor's hand found mine, fingers threading through mine. He squeezed, once gentle, desperate. "I want to know her," he said. "I want to know every story. Every first word. Every scraped knee I wasn't there for. I want to make up for every cold night she spent because I wasn't there to keep her warm." Tears slipped down my face again. "She's all I have. She's all I want," he answered. "Her, you, this." He turned to me, cupped my face with both hands, forehead resting against mine. "I love you," he said again, fiercer, broken open. "And now I love her too. Before I even knew her name, before I knew she carried my blood. Because she's yours. And you're mine." The words burned, passionate, overwhelming. I felt them sear through every crack poverty had carved in me, every night of wind, every empty stomach, every humiliating plea for one more day. I leaned into him, thin frame against his solid warmth. Let the tears come. Quiet stillness wrapped us. Ava's soft breaths, the distant tick of the house settling, Victor's heartbeat thundering against my ear. Then outside engines again. Rocco's voice from the hall. "Boss, Marco's talking. He says there's more. A second team. They're moving on the house now." Victor tensed but did not pull away. He kissed my forehead, lingering reverent. "I end this tonight," he vowed. "For her. For you. For us." He stepped back, reluctance in every line. "Stay with the children," he said. "All 3 of them. Maria's bringing Ava to Sophia's room. Guards are tripled." I nodded, numb, terrified, aching. Victor looked at Ava one last time, eyes soft, shattered. "My daughter," he whispered. Then he turned, walked out. The door closed. I sank to the floor beside the crib, arms wrapped around myself. The tearing inside reached a new depth, love, guilt, shock, hope, all colliding in violent waves. A poor mother in a mansion of secrets. A king discovering a princess he never knew he had. And outside, war coming closer. The shadow had deepened. But now it held light too. Fierce, burning, unbreakable. The house seemed to hold its breath. Every creak of old wood, every distant murmur of guards patrolling the perimeter felt amplified in the stillness. I had moved the children to Sophia's room. Sophia and Tommy already asleep again on the wide bed. Ava tucked between them like she had always belonged there. Their small forms rose and fell under the same blanket, faces soft in the glow of the crescent nightlight. I sat on the edge of the mattress, one hand resting lightly on Ava's back, feeling the steady rhythm of her breathing. It was the only thing anchoring me. The clock on the mantel showed just past midnight October, still clinging to the last days of 2025. Outside, the wind had risen again, rattling the tall windows like it remembered every night it had ever howled through my cracked south side panes. I could almost feel it on my skin, the old cold that used to seep into my bones until I shook so hard I woke Ava with the trembling. Now the room was warm, the air scented with clean linen and faint cedar from the fire downstairs. Yet the chill lived inside me. Still the chill of knowing danger circled closer, the chill of secrets cracking open like thin ice. Under too much. Wait. A sudden commotion, boots on marble, urgent voices rising from the foyer. I stood, heart slamming against my ribs, moved to the door and cracked it open just enough to hear. Rocco's voice low and tight. Second team breached the service gate. 4 men. Armed. They're heading for the east wing. Another guard Marco's orders. He told them to take the woman and the kid. Leverage. Horror flooded me, cold, paralyzing. They wanted Ava, my daughter. The child Victor had only just learned was his. I closed the door, hands shaking so violently the knob rattled. Backed away. Looked at the sleeping children. Sophia's arm had curled protectively around Ava in her sleep. Tommy's hand rested near hers. 3 small lives, innocent, trusting. I could not let them be taken. The thought came sharp and clear, no room for fear, no space for the old powerlessness that had kept me small for so long. I moved quickly, quietly pulled on the borrowed sneakers Maria had left, grabbed the heavy brass fireplace poker from the sitting room hearth. It felt ridiculous in my thin hand, but the weight was real. Solid. I slipped into the hallway. The corridor lights were low emergency mode. Shadows stretched long. I heard footsteps below boots on stairs, hushed commands. They were coming up. My pulse roared in my ears. Dizziness threatened again, blood loss from the cut, exhaustion, terror, but I pushed it down. Father's voice echoed in my memory. When the wolf is at the door, Em, you don't shake. You sharpen your knife. I moved toward the east stairwell, the service stairs the intruders would use, pressed against the wall. Waited. They appeared 4 dark shapes, moving fast but quiet. Black jackets, gloves, one carried a silenced pistol at his side. They did not see me at first. I stepped out, poker raised. Stop. My voice cracked, soft but steady. They froze. The leader, a tall man with a scar across his cheek, tilted his head. You're the Harper girl. I'm the mother of the child you're not taking. He laughed short, ugly. Boss says otherwise. Move or we move you. I did not move. He raised the pistol. Before he could fire, a shadow detached from the upper landing, Rocco silent as death. He tackled the leader from behind. The gun clattered. The other 3 spun chaos, erupted in tense, wordless struggle. No shots, only grunts, thuds, the crack of bone against marble. Guards poured in from both ends of the hall. Victor's men swift and trained. I backed away, poker, still clutched tight until my spine hit the wall. The fight ended quickly. 4 intruders pinned, zip-tied, dragged downstairs. No blood on the carpet, no screams to wake the children. Rocco appeared, breathing hard. You okay? I nodded, numb. They wanted Ava. He looked at me, respect flickering in his eyes. You stood your ground. Boss'll hear about it. He left to secure the prisoners. I slid down the wall, legs giving out. The poker clattered to the floor. My hands shook so badly I could not still them. Shock rolled through me in waves, numbing, violent. I had faced armed men with nothing but a fireplace tool and a mother's terror. The old Emily, the one who bowed her head and whispered, "Yes, sir," to landlords and managers, would never have done it. But this new version, forged in one impossible night, had. Footsteps again, heavy, familiar. Victor burst through the stairwell door, coat torn at the sleeve hair, wild eyes blazing. He saw me on the floor, saw the poker, the zip-tied men being hauled away, and crossed the distance in 3 strides. He dropped to his knees, pulled me into his arms without a word. I collapsed against him, thin frame, shaking, tears coming in silent torrents. His heartbeat thundered against my ear, fierce, unsteady. You're safe, he whispered over and over. You're safe. I clutched his shirt, fingers twisting fabric. They wanted her. Ava, our daughter. The word "our" hung between us. He flinched, then tightened his hold. I know, he rasped. Rocco told me. You stood in their way. With nothing but a poker. I couldn't let them. He pulled back, cupped my face, eyes wet, burning. You protected her, he said, when I wasn't here. Again. His thumb brushed my cheek, tender, reverent. Then something shifted, raw need rising behind the guilt, the remorse. I love you, he said, voice low, rough. I love you so much it's tearing me apart. Every second I'm away from you, I feel it like a blade turning. I see you thin, exhausted, still fighting, and I want to burn the world that ever let you suffer. I want to wrap you in everything I have. I want to give Ava the childhood I never gave her because I didn't know. Tears slipped down his face, unashamed. I reached up, touched his cheek, felt the wetness there. I'm scared, I whispered. Of this. Of you. Of losing her. Of losing... whatever this is. He leaned in, forehead to mine. Then be scared with me, he murmured. But don't run. Not from this. The air between us crackled, electric, dangerous. He kissed me, then slow at first, tentative, asking. Then deeper, desperate, consuming. His mouth tasted of salt and relief, and something darker, years of guilt, poured into one moment of surrender. I kissed him back, hesitant, then fierce, thin arms winding around his neck, pulling him closer. The world narrowed to heat, to breath, to the way his hands cradled my face like I was fragile and unbreakable at once. We broke apart, gasping. He rested his forehead against mine again, breath ragged. "I almost lost you both tonight," he whispered. "I won't survive it again." I touched his lips, soft, trembling. "Then don't let go." He pulled me up, lifted me effortlessly, carried me back to the suite, set me on the sofa. Knelt again, always kneeling for me, this powerful man. "I'm dismantling it," he said. "The parts of this life that touch violence. The offshore accounts are frozen. Marco's finished. The West Side crew scattered. I'm stepping back, legitimate business only. For you, for Ava, for Sophia, and Tommy." I stared, shock, numbing the edges of everything. "You'd do that. For you," his voice cracked. "I'd burn it all." He leaned in, kissed me again, slower, this time deeper. Passion ignited explosive healing. His hand slid to my waist, gentle, reverent, pulling me closer until there was no space left between us. I felt his heart hammering against mine, wild, devoted. We stayed like that, wrapped in each other, until the first gray light of dawn crept through the curtains. Quiet stillness returned, children sleeping safely down the hall, the house settling the wind outside, finally quieting. Victor pulled back, looked at me, eyes soft, shattered whole. "Marry me," he whispered. "When the dust settles. Let me give you and Ava the life you both deserve." Tears slipped free again, joy this time, mixed with the last remnants of fear. I nodded, small, certain. Yes. He kissed me once more, soft, promising. And in that moment, amid the ruins of betrayal and the glow of new dawn, the tearing inside us both began slowly to heal. The war was ending. The love was just beginning. Fierce, passionate, eternal. Dawn broke over Lake Forest in soft shades of rose and gold, the kind of light that seemed too gentle for the night that had just passed. The mansion stood quiet now, guards withdrawn to their posts, the breached gates repaired, the last echoes of conflict, silenced by Victor's unyielding will. Marco and his remaining loyalists had been taken into custody by dawn. No shots fired, no blood spilled on the grounds. Victor had made certain of it. He had walked back through the front doors just as the first birds began to sing. Coat discarded, shirt stained with sweat, and the dust of a warehouse floor, but alive. Whole, victorious. I waited in the foyer, barefoot, still in the borrowed gray sweatpants and long-sleeved shirt arms wrapped around myself against the lingering chill that no amount of central heating could fully erase. Ava slept upstairs with Sophia and Tommy, the three of them tangled together under one blanket like siblings who had known each other forever. When Victor saw me standing there, thin, pale eyes red from tears and sleeplessness, he stopped mid-stride. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then he crossed the marble in 3 long steps and pulled me into his arms. I went willingly, collapsing against his chest, thin frame swallowed by his strength, face buried in the crook of his neck. He smelled of night air, gun oil, and something indefinably, his warm, steady safe. His heartbeat thundered against my ear, fast and uneven, as though it had not yet believed he would make it home. "You're here," I whispered, voice, soft, trembling, still carrying the timid politeness. I could never quite shake when speaking to someone who held so much power over my world. "I promised," he murmured into my hair. "Always." He lifted me then, effortless, reverent, and carried me to the wide window seat overlooking the gardens. Sat with me cradled in his lap like something fragile and priceless. Outside, the first rays touched the frost on the lawn, turning it to diamonds. Inside the fire Maria had kept burning all night crackled softly. Victor rested his forehead against mine, breath ragged. "I ended it," he said quietly. "Marco's finished. The accounts are secure. The West Side crew scattered, they won't come back." I made the calls. The legitimate businesses, the construction firms, the shipping docks, the union partnerships, they're all that's left now. No more shadows, no more blood debts. I'm stepping away from the rest. For good. I searched his face, saw the lines of exhaustion, the faint tremor in his jaw, the raw openness in his eyes. "You'd give it all up?" I asked, voice small, disbelieving. "For you," he answered without hesitation. "For Ava, for Sophia and Tommy, for the chance to be the man they deserve, the man you deserve." Tears slipped free again, silent, unstoppable. I touched his cheek, felt the faint stubble, the warmth of skin that had never known true cold. "I was nothing," I whispered. "A janitor. A ghost. Thin from hunger, hollow from nights when the wind felt like knives. I counted crumbs so Ava could eat. I smiled at landlords who threatened to throw us out. I lived in a room that smelled of damp and defeat. And now, you look at me like I'm everything. You are, he said, voice cracking. You always were. I was just too blind, too buried in guilt and power to see it. Every time I remember that night 12 years ago, your house in flames, your father's name on a list I approved, I feel it tear me open again. But you forgave. You saved my children. You stood between danger and innocence with nothing but courage and a fireplace poker. You loved when you had every reason to hate. He cupped my face, thumbs brushing tears. I love you, Emily Harper. Not because of what you did, because of who you are. Because you carried our child, through every cold night, every empty day, every humiliation, and still taught her kindness. Still taught her hope. The words burned, passionate, overwhelming healing. I leaned into his touch, thin arms winding around his neck. I love you too, I whispered, voice breaking on the confession. I was terrified of you, of what you represented. But you saw me, really saw me. Not the poverty, not the rags, not the hunger. You saw the woman who kept going, and you chose to protect her. To protect us. He kissed me then, slow, deep, reverent. No rush, no desperation, just quiet, burning certainty. When we parted, he rested his forehead against mine again. I want to marry you, he said. Soon, quietly. Here in the garden when the spring comes. Just us, the children, Maria Rocco, people who matter. No spectacle. Just promises. I nodded, tears slipping free again. Yes. He smiled small, broken open, radiant. We sat like that until the sun rose, fully wrapped in each other, listening to the house wake around us. Children's laughter drifted down the stairs. Small feet pattered. 3 voices calling Mama and Daddy in sleepy chorus. Victor stood, lifted me with him, carried me to meet them. The children ran into our arms, Sophia and Tommy hugging us both, Ava reaching chubby hands toward Victor. He lifted her high, laughed when she squealed, then settled her against his chest. My girl, he whispered, voice thick. My beautiful girl. We walked into the dining room together, table already set with breakfast, warm pancakes, fresh fruit milk in glass pitchers, bacon crisp and golden. The children climbed into chairs. Victor pulled out mine gentlemanly tender, then sat beside me, our hands, finding each other under the table. No more cold, no more hunger, no more running. Just love, fierce, healing, colorblind. Wealth and poverty could not separate it. Compassion burned brighter than any fortune. And in that quiet morning light, surrounded by laughter and small hands reaching for syrup, I understood something deep and true. Knowledge is the light that guides us through darkness. Knowledge helps us see beyond appearances. Knowledge teaches us that love does not ask for perfection. Knowledge reminds us that redemption is possible for anyone. Knowledge opens the door to forgiveness. This story carries a lesson in humility, a lesson in courage born from love, a lesson in second chances, a lesson in choosing compassion over revenge. A lesson that true wealth is measured in hearts, not dollars. To everyone watching this video, I wish you good health, a joyful life, and daily peace. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel Alex Truths, like this video, and share it with someone who needs to hear that love and compassion can bridge any divide. Every day we bring you engaging, heartfelt stories like this one. How did this story make you feel? Does it connect to something real in your own life? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and I want to hear the emotions from deep within your hearts. Thank you for being here. Goodbye for now, and I promise to see you again in the next video. Disclaimer: all stories on this channel are fictional and created solely for entertainment purposes. Any resemblance to real people, events, or places is purely coincidental.